Good evening. It's now 6 p.m. and the regular session of this Planning Commission of the City of Lancaster, please come to order. Tonight, our invocation will be offered by Pastor Metters, and the pledge will be led by Commissioner Cook. If you'd all please stand.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you that we can come before you and present our request to you. I thank you for a city that declares in God we trust. I pray your wisdom for this council meeting as they decide what to approve, what not to approve. Guide their conversation, guide their decisions. Bless this city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please repeat with me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome all. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioners Diana Cook.
Present.
Miguel Coronado. Absent. Cassandra Harvey.
Present.
Raj Mali.
Here.
Fabian Teresiano.
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Hall.
Here.
Chairman James Bose.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Public business from the floor. If an individual is unable to stay for the entire meeting, we offer a period of now for early speakers. If we have early speakers, they'll be given an opportunity to address us on agenda items for a period of 2 minutes. Do we have any early speakers?
None that have indicated, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Then any person who would like to address the commission on any agendized item is requested to complete a speaker's card at the rear of the chamber and present it to our Assistant City Attorney. When that agenda item is called, after the applicant or the representative offers their testimony, and after the staff report, if there is one, then individuals will be invited then to speak to us, and you will have an opportunity of 3 minutes. You may notice that applicants are given more time because quite often the cases are rather extensive, and they speak at the pleasure of the commission. However, individual members of the public are given 3 minutes each by policy. For the record, we have received a number of items tonight after the agenda was published, and let me just tell you what they are. If I can find the list. Here it is. We received modifications to the condition list on item 2E, 2F. And item 3, we received a Exhibit A, which is the findings for that application, the condition list, and a site plan. And we also, on item number 4, a condition list attached to the resolution and a condition list as well for item 1529 and 1528. We also are in receipt of a number of pieces of correspondence. Two letters from S. Power. One letter dated September 21st from Royal Investors Group. Another from Royal Investors. One from Stantec. Another from S. Power. And just prior to the meeting, we were handed a package from Royal Investors, which I don't know if the members have had an opportunity to read, but we received it. All right. First item is our consent calendar, which is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 27, 2015. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve minutes from the regular meeting of August 17, 2015.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion passes 4-0 with 2 abstentions.
Oh, all right, you were absent, and so was Ms. Commissioner Harvey. All right, thank you. All right, we have a number of public hearings. We have a series of new public hearings, which are, for the most part, extensions, requests for extensions of tentative tract maps and conditional use permits. So, without objection, the public hearing is open on item 2A, which is a request for a one-year extension on conditional use permit number 1105. Do we have speakers on this one?
I'm not certain, Mr. Chairman. We have a citizen who has simply put in a card indicating they wish to speak on West Side Solar.
All right, very good.
This is an extension of one
We'll
of those
consider that as
requests.
power then. All right, may we have staff report, please?
Chairman and Commissioners, what you have before you tonight is an extension of a 20-megawatt solar facility on the west side of Lancaster, located on 80th Street West between Avenue J4 and J8. This project was originally approved in 2011, and the applicant is requesting its final one-year extension on the project. If this project is not constructed by this time next year, the project will not be able to proceed. What you have before you are any of the conditions that were originally approved, plus the new condition regarding decommissioning of the proposed project. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions to staff?
I'm curious if you got the email I sent about the KCET article talking about megawatt hours versus megawatts and capacity factor versus output or production of a project?
I did receive it, and any of those questions the applicant is prepared to answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything further from the members? All right, then may we hear from the applicant if you care to address us tonight? Nope. All right, then we have a speaker on this.
Mr. Yates.
I'll wait for the actual one that I'm concerned with. This one I have no problem.
I didn't hear what he said. Would you repeat it, please?
He's indicated that this particular one is not the one he's concerned about.
And which one is it, so we don't keep calling it?
With this,
You know the number?
All righty, thank you. All right, then. We have any other speakers on 2A?
no, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. So without objection, we'll close the public hearing and consider a motion on this item.
I move that we grant a one-year extension to September 19th, 2016, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised conditions list attachment to resolution number 11-16.
Second that.
Thank you. Further discussion? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next item is also a new public hearing, so without objection, the hearing is open on conditional use permit number 12-09. Do we have speakers on this item, Mr. Liddicky? Maybe?
Yes, we do have a speaker on this particular item.
All right, thank you. May we have staff report then, please?
Commissioners and members, Chairman Bose and Commissioners, what you have before you is an extension request on a 40-megawatt solar facility located at the southwest corner of Avenue H and 100th Street West. This project was originally approved in 2012. Last year was its first extension. The applicant is requesting its second of 3 extensions to bring this project to October 2016. Anticipated construction of this project is for the end of this year, beginning part of next year. And if there are any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. These are statutory opportunities for requesting extensions. The reason we have a conditional use permit is for the use. All right, thank you. May we hear from the speaker then? Or from the applicant, I'm sorry. Excuse me. The applicant care to offer anything tonight? Mr. Bean?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm really just here to answer any questions that may pertain to the follow-up comments. So if you have any questions for me regarding this project, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. Anyone?
Yes, I wanted to clarify the output of the plant. So what we're talking about when it's a 40 megawatt renewable electric power source during daylight hours is that it's 40 megawatts when the sun's shining on it for certain periods of time. It ramps up and it ramps down, and it reaches approximately 40 megawatts. And so how many megawatt hours in 24 hours does it put out?
So for this project, we'd probably be looking at somewhere around 50 to 70,000 megawatt hours a year.
Per day, how much is that? Can somebody?
For a year. So would you like some equivalencies?
Well, my concern is that it's sold to us on a daily megawatt hour output of 40.
Right.
And I'm just wanting to clarify what that really truly means. Because I know, according to an article I found at KCET, they said that the output of solar panels are approximately 18%, and in comparison to a 24/7 plant.
Right. So what that article is referring to is the capacity factor. So as you were indicating, solar power plants obviously only produce when the sun is out. That actual production is going to range quite a bit depending on the location of the project, the type of solar panels installed. So what our project would be at is probably around a 30% capacity factor. Now some of those other projects that are around the 20%, that's because you're not in the Lancaster, you're not in the best sun in the United States. It's for a much broader area. So what we're looking at is about 30% capacity factor. And those megawatts are being produced during the highest consumption time period. So does that help explain it a little bit?
Well, actually the main consumption period is from like 6 p.m. on until about 8 p.m., according to the California Flex Alert people. But my concern is the valuation of the project is sold to us on 40 megawatt hour plant, and a lot of people assume that that's 24/7. And so I'm just curious if there's a valuation on a plant that's considered for property taxation and stuff like that, because I know up in Kern County they had some trouble with their solar or their windmill projects. They weren't putting out what they thought, and then they had a fire sale up there, and the property tax collected was dropped dramatically. So how is that going to work out on our solar fields out here? Is that a business model or a plan?
Yeah, so essentially when we work with the utilities, our contracts are with, SCE, City of Lancaster, these different utilities. So we have a contracted amount that we're required to produce in a year, and there's going to be fluctuation throughout the year. However, we have to meet that total megawatt hours for the year. That's really what the revenue and everything is based off of, is that contract amount. What we were talking before, the 40 megawatt, that's just a reference number for the nameplate capacity for what we could produce at our maximum output. As I mentioned, it does vary from project to project, and those are based on the contractual requirements. So when we go into a project, we permit it for a certain amount of megawatts. A lot of times we don't have that contract right up front. We have to work with the utility, and that utility and our team work together to finalize a contract which determines the total megawatt hours that we're required to produce, and then we design the facility accordingly.
So how often do your completed projects meet those contract obligations?
All the time, because if we're not meeting that contract obligation, then we're required to pay fines to the utility. So what we're even looking at right now is a lot of our projects are producing over 100%, some up to 115%, and we can be paid up to that amount, but not exceeding that typically. So it's going to be producing that amount that we have contracted with the utility, sometimes higher, and then there is a cap.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just have one quick question. So the 30% capacity factor, is that a regulatory requirement or just contractually only?
No, that's based on the design of the facility. The contract is for a certain amount of megawatt hours a year. So we need to supply the utility with a certain amount of megawatt hours a year. That's what we're going to be generating. The capacity factor is just the number of megawatt hours that we produce compared to what it would be, if we're producing for 24 hours during the night and day.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything further from anyone? No? All right, thank you, Mr. Bain. May we hear from the speaker, please?
Yes, Mr. Yates.
I have no comment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So it would be appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion that we grant a one-year extension to December 13th, 2016, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised condition list, attachment to resolution number 12-23.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next item is item 2C, which is a new public hearing on tentative tract map number 60367. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this matter. The recommendation in this case is the denial of the one-year extension. So do we have speakers on this item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then may we have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Chairman Bose, Commissioners. This is a request for time extension for tentative tract map 60367. 30 acres located on the northeast corner of Lancaster Boulevard and 37th Street East. It's a subdivision for 129 single-family lots in the R7 and R10,000 zones. The recommendation is for a denial of the one-year extension. This map was originally approved in 2006, which had an original expiration date of 2008. There has been 4 state extensions, automatic state extensions that carry their expiration date into 2015. In review of the map, staff could not make the findings that the map is in conformance with the new general plan and policies and guidelines that has been adopted since the original approval of the map. Given that we couldn't make those findings, we make the recommendation for denial. The applicant has provided some information for your review in consideration of their request for approval. This concludes staff's report, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Have you had an opportunity to review the writing that we just received? prior to the start of the meeting? Have you had an opportunity to review it?
I did briefly look at it.
And do you have any comments in regard to it?
I don't have any additional comments.
All right, thank you. Any questions of staff from the members? All right, then may we hear from the applicant, if the applicant is here, or their representative, or a speaker. Oh, you do have a question, I'm sorry.
I would like to ask staff, whose responsibility is it to stay up on the general plan? Is it the applicant's responsibility to conform and know when the changes have been made, to stay current?
The map was originally approved in 2006. Our code allows maps to be extended 3 times. The original approval is good for 2 years, and then the applicant has an opportunity for 3 additional 1-year extensions. You know, the idea behind that is that a map, once it's approved, can have up to 5 years before they get started with whatever they need to do to final record the map, start construction. You know, in 2006, we probably didn't anticipate that the state would grant another 7 years worth of extensions, but they did, and as a result, we have numerous maps that were approved 9-10 years ago that may or may not meet the current general plan as adopted back in 2009. I don't think anybody planned for it, but this is ultimately what happened. We have a new master plan of trails and bikeways. We have design guidelines. We have new residential development codes. However, you know, these maps, they're still approved, but now they're up for expiration. So it gives us an opportunity to review these maps and compare them to our new policies and standards. Some we can remedy and recommend for approval with a few minor modifications. Some are difficult to approve and to make findings for.
Thank you. Hear from the speaker now, or speakers?
Yes, Jim Powers.
Evening, Mr. Powers, and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Before you start, I should disclose to the members that you and I had a telephone conversation on Friday, I believe, regarding this project, and I suggested that you show up tonight and address us all. And my guess is you'll probably say pretty much the same thing you said to me.
Yes.
Be about right?
Yes.
Good. So please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Jim Powers, Project Manager for this project and Royal Investors Group. As you're all very aware of, up in Lancaster, that over that time period where we were granted automatic extensions, we have come through the worst downturn in the economy that I've ever been involved in, and that started back in 1980 when interest rates went up to 21%. And so during that time period, it was tough to proceed and put in additional funds to move forward with this project. That's the main reason why we're asking for the one-year extension. I know that staff, and in their staff report, has talked about the fact that this particular project would be difficult to serve. We don't agree with that. We know that we're kitty corner from the Baptist church and preschool through high school facility, and also the Baptist College. We're on Lancaster Boulevard, just before, right on the corner of Lancaster and 40th Street. We know that in Lancaster Boulevard, there's storm drain facilities, there is a trunk line sewer, and water. Right around the corner is a fire station. on 30th Street. The middle school is around the next corner, next to the school district. The elementary school is south of our development site, and I was told in a meeting with staff at the school district that in order to open that school, they had to bus children from other school areas to get enough kids. My wife teaches in Cabina Valley School District. They've told me that more than 50% of the school districts in California are underserved, and that they need more kids, and that they would love to see a development, our particular development, to bring in more kids for the East Side School District. And then I've had a meeting with the Baptist College, and they would love to have new housing, kitty corner from their facility to provide housing, new housing for some of their staff, administrators, and professors. So we feel that the services are close by, the schools, and water, sewer, and storm drain. Fire safety. Everybody knows that the police department is on Lancaster Boulevard and Sierra Highway. I was out there last Thursday looking at the surrounding areas, and I saw two different sheriff's cars go up and down 40th Street while I was there. And so we feel that from a safety standpoint, it's served. From a school standpoint, it's served. From utilities, it's served. And we would ask that as we're just starting to climb out of this downturn, that we be allowed to have a one-year extension for this development project. At a minimum, we would ask that we have an opportunity to meet with staff and look into any other issues that they might have. But we think that we've looked at the majority of those issues. We're willing to look at ways of providing safe access to the schools from our site, and more than happy to make sure that our development fits in with the surrounding area out in the east side of Lancaster. We do meet everything as far as minimum size lots and everything that was in existence at the time that this project was approved. And we know that there are some guidelines that would look at different ways. I think the lot sizes are still fine, but to look at different means of obtaining a very safe environment for kids and families in the east side of Lancaster.
All right, thank you for your comments. Would you care to address staff's concern relative to the city's general plan, that in fact the project, at least in staff's opinion, doesn't meet those requirements, nor does it meet the design guidelines, nor the master plan for trails and bikeways, or the revised residential zone requirements?
At the time that this was approved,
I'm talking about currently.
Right. Those weren't in place. And so when I said that if we could have at least a 1 month extension of time so that we could meet with staff to show how we can accomplish.
So you're
those.
asking for a continuance on this thing?
Continuance for 1 month.
Okay. All right. Any questions from member? Any? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have any other speakers on this item?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then. So then, without objection, we'll close the public hearing and consider a motion if you care to offer one.
I move that we grant a 1 month extension so Mr. Powers can talk with city staff to see if they can come more in line with our general plan.
Before I hear a second,
I second.
before I hear a second, more typically, we offer a 60-day extension because of the time constraints on preparing the next agenda and that. So if you, did you say 60?
I can modify the thing to 60. I must have misspoke.
I thought that's what you said. Mr. Molly?
I second that.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? Mr. Ludicky, does that work for you guys?
That's what I'm looking at. Hold on. Yes, if you granted them a continuance, which I think is what you're looking at, they would still, they get 60 days simply by requesting an extension. The MAP Act's pretty clear on that.
Right.
They would go, if you put them 2 months over to the 16th of November, they would still be okay to, and as a commission, you could still act on it at that time. But just from staff standpoint, if we could clarify, we have design issues and we have, I want to call out policy 18.2.3, which was identified in our report, which talks about consider more intense urban development in outlying portions of the urbanizing area only if designed as self-sufficient planned communities. That carries with it, in our view, a very important fiscal implication, and we would expect that in that 60-day continuance, we will have that conversation with this applicant, because this does exist on the very edge of the city's defined urban area, and it's not really around anything else, the church and school notwithstanding.
Well, it clearly is at the east end of our residential general plan designations, if you will, for relative urban development. Would you care to comment on specifics, or can you comment at least generally?
In general,
values that we're talking about? You're talking about?
Well, we know from some internal analysis, and this is no surprise to anyone who's spent any length of time studying municipal finance and land use patterns, single-family development does not pay for itself. It essentially creates more in service and maintenance costs than it generates in tax revenue to the city. The further out you go, the more pronounced that becomes. And quite frankly, internally, we're starting to look at that very closely. What that means in specific terms, couldn't really define it for you at this point, but it certainly is something that long-term we have to consider.
So, for instance, what would those items typically include?
In terms of costs?
Yeah,
versus
the cost items.
Yeah, cost items, certainly. Maintenance of street, curb, gutter, sidewalk, street lighting, costs of police, public safety services, drainage, structure maintenance, traffic signal maintenance, all of these kinds of things that go into that. And you know, one of the underlying facts that exists for a city like Lancaster, which is considered, I think the state defines this as a no or low property tax city, but for example, if you have a house that appraises at $300,000, is assessed at $300,000, the 1% general levy that's allowed under Prop 13 generates $3,000 in property taxes a year. Of that amount, the city of Lancaster would get about $210 of that amount. The rest of it goes to Los Angeles County. So it's not really available to us to cover costs. We have to look at other things as to how those are made up or not made up.
Capitalization fees that developers are required to pay whether they're the current fee schedule or a reduced fee schedule, depending on what incentivized opportunities there are at the time that the map is final?
Yes, they pay, well, certainly they pay for the upfront installation of infrastructure and things of that type. The city, though, normally takes that long-term maintenance cost, and that, quite frankly, over a long period of time is pretty significant. The developer at the time of pulling building permits does pay impact fees, but those essentially pay for the costs of physical installation of infrastructure, whether immediate or combined together for longer term things. It doesn't pay for the cost of maintaining it. And that's, I think, really the thing that we're looking at in terms of development pattern versus that long-term maintenance cost.
All right, thank you. There may be other questions. Ms. Hart?
Why is it the look on my face that says I have a question?
You're leaning forward. I
So-
think that means you're going to talk.
So just so I'm clear, TTM 60367, the one we're on now, 2C, is this more of a cost factor, or is it really a nonconformance, perhaps relative to zoning?
It's both, but I think what we're looking at from a staff standpoint, the policy 18.2.3, when it was adopted, was at least in part a fiscal consideration. And the fact that this map has been approved for a pretty long period of time and has not moved forward is something to think about. I think Chun brought up a very good point. The map, when it was approved at a certain time in history, if you will, with a certain set of expectations. Under normal circumstances, the map would be gone already. The state kind of artificially has kept these alive, but when you look at something that was done from a real estate or development perspective in 2005 and put it in 2015 context, I think you have to look at how realistic that is in terms of planning and long-term development.
Which is a great segue into my next question, and perhaps this is more to the applicant. So the 60 days, is that realistic to come to some sort of agreement, decision between city staff and the applicant? Or is that sort of an incapricious deadline?
It has to do with the statute, doesn't it?
You know, looking at it simply from a technical standpoint, at the end of 60 days, it will be back on your agenda. You have the flexibility as a commission to grant, I mean, you can grant up to a one-year extension. You could grant them 60 more days as an extension if you wished, but, you know, I guess what I'm saying is you have a chance to revisit this if something by that time doesn't seem to have shaken out clearly one way or the other.
I'm just posing that question in the spirit of due diligence, you
Sure.
know, if that's feasible. I just wanted to make sure we're on the right path.
Well, yeah, I mean, as long as they're willing to agree whatever we ask for, it's certainly feasible. They may not want to do that, though.
Okay, no more questions on my end.
Vice Chair Hall, you had something? So, Assembly Bill 1303 that's sitting on the governor's desk that may or may not be signed, but likely will be chaptered. What effect would that have on this map if it is chaptered prior to the 60-day extension?
As I read the language of the bill, and having gone and done some research in accordance with the conditions that are placed in that bill as far as which counties qualify for that extension, or I should say, which maps in which counties qualify for that versus those that don't, it does not appear to me that Los Angeles County falls within the criteria that that bill contains within it. Therefore, the state's action to grant automatic extensions, I don't think applies within Los Angeles County, given the conditions that are set forth in it, as far as income level, unemployment rates, so forth.
However, unless and until the bill is either signed or the governor doesn't sign it but fails to veto it, it becomes law, right? So until that happens, we really don't know how it'll flush out. The bill is much different than the other four that the legislature has passed, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, have we wrung this out enough, folks? All right, ready to vote? So the motion is to grant a 60-day continuance for tentative tract map number 60367. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-1. Will be placed on the November agenda.
It's November 16th, right?
Correct.
All right, thank you. The next new public hearing is on tentative tract map number 60870. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this matter, and the recommendation is also a denial. So we have speakers on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
All right, then may we have a staff report, please?
This request for extension is for TTM 60870, 12 acres located on the east side of 20th Street West, approximately 660 feet south of Avenue I. The request is for a subdivision of 44 single-family lots. The map was originally approved in 2005. In 2007, the Planning Commission approved a request for one additional year. Since 2008, this map has been carried by the automatic state extensions. In 2009, the land use designation and zoning for this project site was changed from single-family to multifamily. As a result, the map is no longer in conformance with the land use designation, and due to this reason, staff recommends denial for the extension of this map. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Members have any questions of staff? All right, then may we hear from the speaker or applicant? Do we have a speaker or applicant?
I do have a speaker, but it's not the applicant, Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good.
Michelle Sauder. Sauder. Pardon me.
Evening and welcome.
Thank you. Most honorable gentlemen and women here. Well, I'm a resident in that area. I'm not used to speaking like this, so kick me out as soon as possible. But I'm just trying to understand here, because I remember visiting this several years ago. I've lived in that neighborhood for about 12 years now. Could you clarify that to deny the request for a one-year extension? I guess I just feel like I want to be a voice in the wilderness. Is this meaning that they are going to proceed with building at this point, or can I ask that it be extended for longer with my cause? I need a little bit of clarification.
We can respond to you.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
No, that would be fine.
That's it?
Well, no other questions. But I feel like.
Do you have other comments you?
Yeah, it depends on. Yeah, I just want to make sure that my understanding is correct with the language.
If the commission upholds the staff's recommendation for denial, the map is dead unless the applicant appeals to the city council, and then the city council would have ultimate decision. If the applicant fails to appeal, then it's no longer in effect.
Okay, so it sounds like me not wanting it there, it's already standing that it would be in favor of it not being built unless it's appealed. Is that correct?
See if I can say it again.
Yeah, thank you.
If we approve the map, it's extended for 1 year. If we deny the application, it kills the map unless the applicant appeals to the city council, and then the city council, on its motion, approves it
Okay,
or denies it. If they deny it and uphold our decision, then it would be no further action.
Very
It would
good.
be dead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all.
That's a technical term, right?
The explanation sounded quite clear to me.
Okay, do we have any other speakers?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and we don't have the applicant on this? No? No? Okay. So then it'd be appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion on this matter.
I move that we deny the request for a 1-year extension based on the findings contained in the staff report.
I second that.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, the next item is 2E, which is a new public hearing on tentative tract map number 61677. So, without objection, the public hearing is open. Do we have any speakers?
I do have a speaker's card, Mr. Chairman, but it is the applicant.
All right, very good. So may we have a staff report on this, please?
This request for extension is for TTM 61677, 15 acres located on the southwest corner of Avenue K and future 57th Street West. The request is for a subdivision of 58 single-family lots in the R7000 zone. Staff is recommending that we extend or grant the 1-year extension to August 15, 2016, based on the findings in the staff report and subject to revised conditions. We included the revised conditions in the staff report. They include measures to improve connectivity within the subdivision and other traffic calming measures as in accordance with our general plan, policies, and design guidelines. This concludes staff's report for this project. Welcome any questions you have.
In our packet tonight, we typically receive either letters of concurrence with staff's recommendation or we don't. In this particular case, we don't have one.
No.
All right, then let's hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and other members. My name is John Friedman with Gem Street Properties. We're the property owner. Lancaster 58 is how we hold title. I was going to come here in person, so I didn't send in a letter ahead of time. We are in support of the staff report and conditions as amended. The only question I have is I thought I heard when you opened the remarks this evening, you made mention of some changes to item 2E and I think 2G. So I just want to be clear, was there something that changed since the staff report was mailed out, or did you just were referring to the...
Yes, in fact, there is. There was a revision made and distributed Thursday. You didn't receive a copy of it?
I got my staff report, I think, on Thursday, so there may be something I haven't seen. I'm not sure. As Chen and I spoke
Why don't we take a break so you can compare it with staff and make sure that we're all on the same page here?
Okay, that'd be great.
So we'll just set this action aside, take up the next action, and if that's all right with you.
That's fine. Thank you.
I want to make sure everybody's clear on what the rules of the road are. for your tolerance this evening. Mr. Freeman was before us, and welcome back.
Thank you, John Friedman again. Yes, I've discussed with staff, and I now understand the little tweaks that were made since the staff report that I did receive, and I'm okay with the conditions as presented.
So to be clear, you
Yes,
accept the
got everything
conditions
clear.
as revised then?
Yes, correct.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other speakers?
Not on this item, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. So it would be appropriate to close the public hearing then on this matter and consider a motion.
I move that we grant a one-year extension to August 15th, 2016, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised conditions list attachment to resolution number 05-47.
Second that.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion, questions, comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. The next new public hearing is tentative tract map number 61678, which is right next door to the last one. So without objection, the public hearing is open, and do we have speakers on this?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No, we do not. It's your pleasure, folks. Do you want to hear a staff report? No. No? Anybody have a burning desire? No? All right. Since we have no speakers and the members aren't interested in hearing a staff report, then it's appropriate to close the public hearing. Since there's no one to speak, right? No speakers. All right. And consider a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion that we grant a one-year extension to September 18, 2016, based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the revised condition list.
Thank you.
Attachment to resolution number 06-67.
Thank you.
I second that.
Thank you. Further questions, comments, discussion? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right. The next item is item 2G, which is tentative tract map number 62349. And this map has been withdrawn by the applicant. However, we're obliged to take testimony if any is offered. Do we have any speakers on this matter?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then. So there's no further action. I don't believe we're required to take action when they withdraw, are we?
No, by their withdrawal, the map will expire of its own
All right, thank you.
processing.
Okay, the next item is 2H, which is tentative tract map number 63282. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this. This is another recommendation for denial. So I'm assuming we have speakers.
I have no speaker, Mr. Chairman.
You have no speakers on
No
this?
speaker on it.
No speakers on this? Anyone? All right, members, do you wish to hear a staff report on this?
No.
No? Third and last call, any speakers? All right, then. It's appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion.
I move that we deny a request for a one-year extension based on finding contained in the staff report.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. The next item is 2I, tentative tract map number 63283. This is a new public hearing. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this item. Do we have speakers?
No speaker on it, Mr. Chairman.
No speaker? Okay. Anyone care to hear the staff report on this? Nope? All right. So, one more chance. Any speakers? Nope? Okay. It's appropriate then to close the public hearing without an objection and consider a motion.
I move that we deny the request for a one-year extension based on the findings contained in the staff report.
Second that.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Just for the public's information, and I should have mentioned this before the meeting started, the Planning Commission meets the Monday prior to this meeting in a public meeting. However, we do not deliberate. We hear staff's reports on these items. So you see this typical binder that we have with, I don't know, 2.5 reams of paper, double-sided. We have an opportunity to, in advance of that meeting, review the items in the agenda and then interact with staff individually, not as a group. And that's why, for instance, this evening, members don't care to hear the staff report because it would be redundant, and particularly on items where there are no speakers for or against. So that's just for your information. Okay, the next item is 2J. Do I have that right? Yep. Tentative tract map number 64877. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this matter. Do we have speakers?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No speakers. All right. Anyone care to hear the staff report on this? No? All right then. No speakers. Another chance for anyone who'd like to talk to us about this map? No one? All right then. So without objection, we'll close the public hearing and consider a motion.
I move that we grant a one-year extension to August 21st, 2016, based on the finding contained in staff report and subject to the revised condition list attachment to the resolution number 06-63.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All right. Questions, comments? None? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, the next one is item 2K. This is tentative tract map number 65186. So without objection, the public hearing is open on this matter. Do we have a speaker or speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have a speaker's card.
All right, thank you. So then can we hear a staff report, please?
Chairman, Commissioners, this request for extension is for TTM 65186, 17.7 gross acres, located on the northeast corner of Avenue J and future 42nd Street West. The subdivision is for 73 single-family lots in the R7000 zone. This map was originally approved in 2006, and the state extensions carried it up to this year, 2015. This is the first of 3 available time extensions for this map. Again, this map was approved at a time in which we didn't have our current general plan and design guidelines and plan for trails and bikeways. As a result, the proposed layout of the subdivision is not what we would recommend for approval if it was submitted today. We could not make the finding that it was in conformance to our current goals, objective policies, and action programs. Therefore, staff is recommending denial for this extension. We did receive some communication from the applicant, which is before you. Welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. So what communications have we received?
There should be a letter from Stantec.
Question, Chairman Bose?
Go ahead.
John, in the letter, it states that the applicant is entitled, this is the first of their 3 one-year extensions?
Yes, this is the first of 3 extensions available to the applicant.
Actually, applicants for extensions are not entitled to anything other than at the pleasure of the commission. However, the letter states that they're asking for a 60-day continuance. So, may we hear from the applicant or speaker, whichever it is?
Yes, Jack Hartung.
Welcome, Mr. Hartung.
Thank you, Chairman Boss, members of the commission. We've been, the engineer has been having discussions with staff regarding the design criteria for accommodating the new policies. That I think we can address in design, and that was the reason was suggested maybe we can accommodate those changes in 60 days and then come back and have an approval from staff. The only thing that I would add is there seems to be some concern about the urbanization impacts on the city in the future. And I'm not sure in 60 days that we'll have an answer for that. We can talk to it, speak to it, and there'll be other developers will be in here trying to figure out that solution also. It would seem, what I would prefer would to get a 1-year extension, but if we can't settle on a 1-year extension tonight, we'll go with 60 days, have staff discussion, and then move forward on that basis. That would, but the 1 year seems like you have 3 more chances to adjust the plan that we have. If we extend it now, maybe in the next year, there'll be some resolution at the city on how to address these urbanization impacts. And I would say we can talk about it in 60 days. Don't think we'll have a solution, but we can talk about it. So I would, in any event, we'd like to have the 1-year extension. But if you can't see that tonight, and you want to make it consistent with the other approvals tonight, 60 days would be fine.
Just to be clear, you'd like an extension of this action until our November, is it 18th? November 18th?
16th.
November 16th meeting. That's what you're asking for.
That's what the letter asked for, but if we can get a one-year extension, I'd take the one-year extension. But if you want us to readdress it, spend the time with staff in the next 60 days, I'd be more than willing to do that.
Well, we'll find out what the pleasure of the commission is.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
No other speakers on this item, Mr. Chairman.
Comments from staff?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We have a couple of concerns on this one. Design is probably the biggest one. But related to that, and to kind of give you some of the idea of the things that staff weighs on this, we try to look at how much of a map you'd have to redesign, essentially, before it doesn't really begin to resemble what the map was. There is some line, and I don't know that I can define it brightly for you, where it kind of ceases to be a modification and it almost becomes a brand new map. I'm not quite sure where this one is at on that continuum, so that's one thing that we'd want to look at. The applicant's representative indicated the concern over cost. Staff did raise that to them as an issue, the same as we did with the one further on the east side. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily as great a concern here, but is still a concern that we'd want to look at as part of that discussion.
All right. Thank you. So typically, tentative tract maps are submitted. They're evaluated under the current, under the general plan and zoning regulations, land use regulations, policy at the time they're submitted. And once staff is satisfied that they meet the requirements as I've just outlined, then they come before this commission within a certain period of time. By code, we're obliged to hear them.
Correct.
However, we're not obliged to approve them or continue them or deny them. That's just a choice we have, right?
Correct.
My point is if a map was designed in 2006, and for all intents and purposes, a tentative map should reflect, and the expected outcome is that the final map would look like the tentative, plus or minus a lot or a slight change in the street configuration or what have you. That'd be about right?
Yes, that's the intent. So
that's the intent of the map?
Final map has to be substantially in conformance, I believe, is the language in the act.
So we're obliged, as well as staff and the applicant, to conform to the requirements of the MAP Act.
Yes.
So in this particular case, if you redesigned B Street and C Street and D Street, it may not necessarily be in conformance to the MAP Act. Or if you added 10% of the lots or reduced 10% of the lots.
Yeah, there is actually within our subdivision ordinance, there are limits, the percentage of lots that can be not subtracted but added as part of any kind of change from tentative to final.
Right.
But since we have not had, I guess for lack of a better way to put it, a lot of time to talk about a redesign here, like I said, I'm not quite sure what the effect of it would be.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? What's your pleasure, folks? Well, I'll close the public hearing then, assuming we have no other speakers. None? Anyone? All right. Then we'll close the public hearing on this item without objection and consider a motion.
I move that we deny the request for a one-year extension based on the lack of findings contained in the staff report.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, any other questions or comments? Discussion of any kind? No? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0. The extension is denied. The decision of the commission is appealable to the city council in accordance with the city's uniform appeal procedures.
Thank you. All right, the next item is of new public hearings, and the last item of new public hearings is item 2L. Mr. Molly?
Yes, I live in right next door, so I have to recuse myself.
Thank you. Okay, so the public hearing is open on tentative tract map number 72266, which is a request to grant a one-year extension. So without objection, the public hearing is open, and do we have a applicant or speaker on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
This is actually a map this commission approved.
Yeah, that's kind of a rarity, isn't it?
The other 10 were not.
Yes, it's the applicant, Mr. Chairman, and just from conversation, I believe he may have a question or two.
All right, very good. Did we get? No, we did not receive a uncontested letter, so. All right, who we're going to hear from?
Commission, I'm Dennis Persley.
You certainly are, and welcome, Mr. Persley.
Just had a couple concerns on the revised list that I got, the conditions. I talked to Chun yesterday. He kind of agreed to it. Due to time constraints, we didn't have a chance to talk to Brian today, and so nothing was kind of ironed out. Some of the conditions are kind of based on building homes, where in this particular case, they're going to be 1 acre custom homes. So I won't be involved in some of the on-site things, and the extra conditions kind of involve that. So with approving it, that's fine as long as we can work out the rest of it, the conditions I'm concerned with. So I don't have a problem as long as we can work it out. John agreed with me that it needs to be reworded to say that it's not my responsibility, so I won't be involved with that part. So if that's what they're saying, that's fine with me. We'll change that. Secondly, as the downturn has been, and hopefully is coming out of its hole, there has been the extensions, the 7-year extensions through the states and so forth. This particular map is only 4 1-acre lots. It's not a large project at all. I did all the streets, sewer, water, all the maps, and I believe they're approved, ready to go, until I went to get the will serve letter from Quartzville Water, who says we can't give you water. We have water, but we can't give you one because we are afraid of litigation with the state because of the letter Brown sent down. So there I am in the middle of, I can't move, as well as I have probably 5 other tentative maps out there in the same position right now. And I believe that would be called a moratorium to a point, and I would like staff to look at that, and possibly as a moratorium there is ways around these extensions with a moratorium underwater. Until that's lifted, all these maps are dead. Nobody can move. So that's my concerns for now. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Persley, let's back up to what you said previously about working out. And frankly, I didn't clearly understand what you were talking about, but I'm going to ask Chun here to enlighten us, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Mr. Persley has some concerns about some of the development conditions and whether they would be on the obligation of Mr. Persley or whether they would be for the buyers that would purchase these custom lots. He argues that this subdivision is different than typical subdivisions that result in production tract type of development. This particular subdivision is for the creation of lots for custom homes, and therefore the development of this subdivision should be treated a little bit differently than the ones that we have where we have a production builder. Conditions such as the development of fencing and or landscaping. There may be a need for a modification in the language to specify the timing of those development improvements.
So getting down to the bottom line here, are you saying then that that our standard conditions for this map that we typically approve are to be modified at a later time? Is that what you're saying?
I don't have the exact language drafted, but it would be drafted so that we can accommodate this kind of custom lot development scenario.
So we don't have that action before us. We don't have that language, nor can we analyze it, right?
It is not before you. It wouldn't be difficult to draft. We can tie some of the conditions to.
Would have approved.
Right.
Or denied, for that matter. Okay. Did he have it about right, Mr. Persley?
Well, I could reiterate what the conditions are, like it was interior block walls. Well, with no grading plan, it's pretty difficult to put a block wall on a bare piece of land, and then you go in and grade it, and all of a sudden the block wall is buried 3 feet, or whatever it happens to be, or out of the ground, so it kind of doesn't make any sense to put it there, or the landscaping in front of the house that's not there.
But you can't record a final map until you have a grading plan approved in the first place, right?
I can record a map.
And you can't sell individual lots until you have a recorded map, right?
Correct.
So.
And I can't get the recorded map until I get the water letter.
No, I understand that. We're all in similar circumstances relative to water. That's not in our jurisdiction, however. If we started reviewing maps and conditioning, and they are conditioned on availability of water, if we made a determination that you must have a solid will serve letter and paid your fees to the local water agency and AVEC and bought your meters, there wouldn't be a map approved in this community. So careful what you ask for. At least that's my opinion. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Hall?
There's a couple of things that it said that you were we originally, this commission agreed to grant this CUP, but now there's revised conditions that you're against, or is it just the standard conditions that we did the last time we were visiting this?
It was the revised conditions from the approval from before.
So you would want a 60-day extension to try to handle that, or?
If that would work, that's fine with me. Time to work it out with staff. I believe they're willing. We didn't have the time to do it because the original planner was on vacation, so I didn't get a hold of Chun until Friday.
So from staff's point of view, how would that work out?
In this particular case, you would have to actually grant a 60-day extension. You could not grant simply a continuance because he would run out of time under the MAP Act's provisions.
So, in effect, we grant a 60-day extension as opposed to a continuance.
Yes. And then, of course, assuming that you did that and then you wish to grant the remainder of the one-year extension, he wouldn't get one more year from a November hearing. He would get 10 months, essentially.
Okay. Thank you. Anything more from the applicant you'd like to add, sir? Anything more you'd like to add?
No, I guess that'll be it for now.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any other speakers?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So without objection, we'll close the public hearing and consider a motion. Members?
I'll make the motion that we grant 60-day extension to resolution number 13-13.
As amended. So I have to amend the resolution for 60 days rather than 1 year, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
With Commissioner Molly recusing himself on the item because he lives right next door. All right. And Mr. Molly's returned. Next item. This is a new public hearing on General Plan Amendment Number 14-03, Zone Change 14-03, Conditional Use Permit 14-15A, 15B, 15C, 15D, 15E, 15F, 14-16A, and 14-16B. Applicant is Sustainable Power S Power Group, LLC. So, public hearing is open on this item, and I'm sure we have speakers, so may we have a staff report.
Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, what you have before you tonight is a proposed 100-megawatt solar photovoltaic facility on approximately 725 acres. This project site is generally bounded by Avenue G, Avenue H, 93rd Street West, and 107th Street West. The approximately 80 acres located to the west of 105th Street West, it comprises of two parcels, is designated as urban residential and zoned R7000, R10000, and R15000. This designation and zoning does not allow for the development of a solar facility, and therefore the applicant has requested a general plan amendment and a zone change to change the designation to non-urban and the zoning to rural residential 2.5 acre lot minimum. The remaining 645 acres of the project site is designated as urban residential, commercial, open space, and parks, and zoned R7000, R10,000, commercial plan development, parks, and school. These designations and zonings also do not allow for the development of a solar facility. However, on June 26, 2012, the Development Agreement 8901, which covers these parcels, was amended to allow for the filing and approval of a conditional use permit for solar facilities on this property without changing the general plan amendment, the general plan and zoning designations. It also grants the city the ability to unilaterally change the general plan designation and zoning once construction of a solar facility has started on this property. The proposed project is one large solar generating facility. It is likely that the project will be financed and constructed in phases. The developer has requested individual use permits, 1415A through 1415F, 1416A, and 1416B, to facilitate the financing and construction of the proposed project. These 8 CUPs are collectively referred to as CUP 1415 for the property covered by the development agreement, and CUP 1416 for the 2 parcels subject to a general plan amendment and zone change. Combined, these 2 use permits cover the entire 725-acre, 100-megawatt facility. The proposed project would include 34.5 kV feeders, which would utilize Gen-tie routes constructed underground to feed the power from the on-site switching station to one of 2 previously approved collector substations along Avenue J, and ultimately routed to the Antelope Valley substation for use by Southern California Edison. The proposed switching station on the project site would be located north of Avenue H towards the interior portion of the project site. A chain link fence would surround the project site, and a 10-foot landscaped area would be provided between the fence and the property line, as noted on the site plan, to screen the development from public views along adjacent roadways. Access to various portions of the project site would be provided from a total of 7 access gates. These gates are located on 105th Street West, Avenue G, and Avenue G8. These gates would be set back approximately 50 feet from the edge of right-of-way to allow vehicles to fully pull off the roadway when accessing the project site. Water tanks for fire department purposes would be provided at all of the access gates. Avenue G and H would be dedicated at 50 feet from center line along the boundary of the project site. Irrevocable offers of dedication would be provided for 100th Street West, 102nd Street West, 105th Street West, 107th Street West, Avenue G4, Avenue G8, and Avenue G12. A draft and final EIR was prepared for the proposed project and examined environmental impacts associated with the construction and operation of the proposed solar facility on 12 different environmental resource areas: aesthetics, agricultural resources, air quality and greenhouse gases, biological resources, cultural resources, geology and soils, hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, land use, noise, public services and utilities, and transportation and traffic. These impacts were examined in depth, and mitigation measures were provided for potentially significant impacts. Specifically, mitigation measures were provided related to air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, geology, hazards, hydrology, noise, public services, and traffic. These measures are detailed in the mitigation monitoring plan provided in Exhibit B to Resolution Number 15-19, and in the conditions of approval for each of the conditional use permits. With implementation of the identified mitigation measures, all project-specific impacts would be less than significant. However, cumulative impacts associated with PM10 during construction and biological resources would be significant and unavoidable. The PM10 impacts are related to dust, and those would occur only if construction of the proposed project occurred at the same time as the proposed solar project on the southeast corner of 90th Street West and Avenue H, and on the southwest corner of Avenue H and 100. So everything would have to occur at the same time to generate those cumulative impacts. The cumulative impacts to biological resources, while we've provided mitigation to reduce those impacts to less than significant levels for the proposed project, when combined with all other solar facilities in the Antelope Valley, would result in a cumulatively significant impact. These cumulative impacts are deemed acceptable due to overriding considerations, as noted in Exhibit A of Planning Commission Resolution Number 15-19. If these projects are approved, CUPs 14-15 become effective immediately, and CUPs 14-16 would only become effective with the approval of the general plan amendment and zone change. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. There may well be some members.
I'm a kind of a local kind of person and like to keep sales tax dollars local, so I bought my car at the local dealership, and it allows the city to have sales tax dollars and revenue. I was wondering if we could put a condition in on solar projects like this.
There already is one.
For buying locally on the solar panels?
It requires the applicant to establish the City of Lancaster at the point of sale for all purchases related to the solar facility.
Thank you.
We good? Anyone else? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Do I have speakers on this item?
I believe the only one that I have here, Mr. Chairman, is the applicant.
Oh, I see.
The other gentleman, I believe, has left who originally indicated an interest in speaking.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, we have received in this particular case an uncontested letter from the applicant indicating they concur with all the conditions recommended by staff. So, Mr. Bean, would you join us for a moment? So you do concur with, obviously your letter says that, but I like to hear it.
Yes, we concur with all the conditions.
All right, very good. Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? None? All right, thank you. Anyone here care to speak on this? Any other members of the community? Anyone? All right. Hearing none then, it would be appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider motions, actually. I believe we have to have individual motions, right? That be correct?
Correct.
All righty. Thank you. What's your pleasure, folks?
Perhaps someone long-winded should make the motion since there's 9 of them.
We could split it up, but I'll start.
I'm sorry. I was self-deprecation, sorry.
Go ahead.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-19, certifying the final environmental impacts report, adopting the necessary environmental findings, and recommending to the City Council approval of an amendment to the adopted general plan of the city and an amendment to the adopted zoning plan for the city known as General Plan Amendment Number 14-03 and Zone Change Number 14-03.
Thank you. Do I have a second, please?
Second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Comment? Please vote.
Resolution 1519 passes 6-0.
Thank you. All right. Number 2.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-20, approving conditional use permit number 14-15A.
Thank you.
Second that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Please vote.
Resolution 15-20 passes 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 3.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-21, approving conditional use permit number 14-15B.
Second that.
Thank you. Questions or comment? Please vote.
Resolution 15-21 passes 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 4.
I move we adopt resolution number 15-22, approving conditional use permit number 14-15C.
Second that.
Thank you. Question or comment? Please vote.
Resolution 15-22 passes 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 5.
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number 15-23, approving conditional use permit number 14-15D.
Second that.
Thank you. Questions or comment? Please vote.
Resolution 15-23 passes 6-0.
All right. Item number 6.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-2024, approving conditional use permit number 14-15E.
Thank you.
Second that.
Thank you. Questions or comment? Please vote.
Resolution 15-24 passes 6-0.
Thank you. Item number 7.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-25, approving conditional use permit number 14-15F.
Thank you.
Second that.
Thank you. Questions or comment? Please vote.
Resolution 15-25 passes 6-0.
And item number 8.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-26, approving conditional use permit number 14-16A. The approval of CUP number 14-16A is not valid until the effective date of general plan amendment number 14-03 and zone change number 14-03.
Thank
I
you.
second that.
Thank you. Questions or comment? Please vote.
Resolution 1526 passes 6-0.
Thank you. And item number 9.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-27, approving conditional use permit number 14-16B. The approval of the CUP number 14-16B is not valid until the effective date of the general plan amendment number 14-03 and zone change number 14-03.
I second that.
Thank you. Questions or comment? Please vote.
Resolution 15-27 passes 6-0.
All right. Well, thank you all. And I didn't have to read any of them. That was pretty good. So, Mr. Bean, you'll be selling power to Lancaster Choice Energy. That be true? Great. Glad to have you. All right, new business. Item number 4. This is a public hearing on the adoption of standard conditions for conditional use permits for on-site sale and off-site sale of alcohol or alcoholic beverages if you will. We have speakers on this, so may we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Randy Davis will give a brief report on this.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Staff is looking to adopt Resolution Number 15-28, approving standardized conditions to be incorporated by reference in approving conditional use permits for on-site sale of alcohol, and adopt Resolution Number 15-29, approving standardized conditions to be incorporated by reference in approving conditional use permit for off-site sale of alcohol. Currently, when the Planning Commission approves a land use action such as a conditional use permit for sale of alcohol, it normally approves the request subject to a resolution with a number of added conditions. These conditions typically establish requirements for container size, percentage of display area for alcohol products, and other items relative to the project. These conditions must be met in order for the use to be established on site. The list of conditions have become quite lengthy. Conditional use permits often have added conditions attached to the resolution as well. Many of these conditions are standardized conditions that simply advise the applicant of normal city requirements listed in Chapter 17.42, which is our alcohol beverage establishment, or procedures, or other procedures, and therefore apply to most every project. At the present time, each staff report contains a resolution and an attachment to the resolution containing added conditions that are recommended for a particular project. As previously noted, a majority of these conditions are standard and are generally reiterated in every case. This process results in lengthy staff reports that can be cumbersome both to prepare and to read, and can obscure the issues unique to an individual project. Staff has reviewed the typical conditions list for conditional use permits for on-site and off-site sales of alcoholic beverages and identified those conditions that are typically applied to all cases. These conditions have been listed in two separate resolutions. In your binder, you will find two resolutions. Resolution number 15-28, which is for on-site sale of alcohol, and resolution number 15-29 for off-site sale of alcohol. Staff feels that this method of applying conditions will significantly shorten the staff reports prepared for the proposed projects, while still adequately informing the project applicants of typical city requirements. The shortening of the conditions list for individual projects will also allow more efficient preparation of resolutions for commission discussions. Should you require any additional information, I'm here to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Any questions or comments from members?
This is two different motions, and it should be moved with the changes that were passed out earlier,
Yes.
as amended.
Yes.
So this effort from staff, as well as from our subcommittee members of the commission, is the culmination of that effort in preparing standard condition resolutions similar to what we have for residential, commercial, and industrial projects.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So it defines, in the first resolution, on-site sales, and the second resolution is off-site sales. Are there any other types of sale of alcoholic beverages that are not included?
No, there is not.
All right, thank you. So this captures all.
Correct.
All right. Very good. Do we have speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have one speaker's card. Carlo Shahady.
Is it Mr. Shahady?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Commissioner, staff members. How are you? Going over the standard conditions on off-site sale for resolution number 1529. Item number 24 states no sales of any individual container, cans, or bottles or beer shall be allowed, except that the applicant may establish a system which no less than 6 individual containers, not less than 12 ounces in sizes, may be combined for a single transaction. Selling 6 as a potential applicant for a CUP with a place of 3,400 square feet, with 30 to 40 cooler doors and a deli meat area, as well as a produce area with all that expense, I don't see how anybody is going to be able to sell 6 individual containers of one to one single customer. I mean, first, before it was minimum 40 ounces or more, you can purchase one. But I don't see how we're going to be able to sell 6 in one transaction. You get what I'm saying? And potentially, I don't think I'd want to sell 6 to one individual customer. I wouldn't want to sell 6 40s to one individual customer. So does that...
You sell 30 canned cases, don't you?
We do not. We do not sell those.
Oh, you don't?
We in different locations, we do not sell those. The reason
You
being,
personally don't, but other vendors do.
Correct. Other vendors can purchase that 30-pack, such as Walmart, and purchase about 10,000 cases for maybe half of the cost that I could purchase them for, because they're a big store. Big stores can survive with this item, 24, not selling less than 6 in a single transaction because of the fact that they can offer more than we can. Again, we're only 33 or 3,400 square feet. So, I mean, 6 is kind of out of the ordinary, I believe. I mean, I would like if you guys maybe look at it more, or, maybe some packages come 3 from the manufacturer. Actually, some come only 3, and then 6 packs, 12 ounces. But, I mean, anything else is kind of outrageous in my opinion, and any other applicant as well. That's about it.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant? Or the speaker, I should say. You're not an applicant at this point.
Yes, applications on process are on hold.
All right, thank you. Have any other speakers?
No cards, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anyone else care to speak to us on this item? Nope. All right. Last chance. All right, thank you. So, it's appropriate to close the public hearing without objection and consider a motion on item 1 of the recommendation.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-28 as amended, approving standardized conditions to be incorporated by reference and approving conditional use permits for on-site sale of alcohol.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Please vote.
Resolution 15-28 passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. Item number 2 on the recommendation.
I move that we adopt resolution number 15-29 as amended, approving standardized conditions to be incorporated by reference and approving conditional use permits for off-site sale of alcohol.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0 for Resolution 15-29.
Thank you.
Just to make Chairman Vos, you're certainly aware, but for other commissioners, the council will take up your recommendations as far as the modifications to the alcohol ordinance at their meeting tomorrow evening.
All right, thank you. Was that the director's announcement?
No, other than to say appreciate the commission's willingness to work through the agenda with the extensions this evening. I expect that that's going to be the case for a little bit of time because we have so many maps, and as I indicated, it's very likely that the legislation that was passed will not end up applying in Los Angeles County. So you may well have a series of meetings with a significant number of extension requests, perhaps not as many as this one, but for maps that you may not have ever touched prior.
Yeah, the majority of what's in the queue were adopted 2006, 2005, 2004, 2003, and like that, right? And
yes.
It's like, as I recall, it was in, well, it was in the range of, 12 to 13,000 active lots in tract maps.
Probably a good estimate, yes.
And we just eliminated, 1,800 of them with the solar project?
Well, at least until the appeal period is over.
We rarely get appealed. And less often get overturned. At least that's my memory anyway. So that's your announcements?
Yes.
Okay, I notice on the commission agenda that we have issues for 2 federal holidays which fall on a regular commission meeting day, which is not unusual for our commission. January 18th being Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and February 15th being President's Day holidays. So it would be, historically what we've done is rescheduled those meetings a week later. Would that be appropriate to do that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So do you need, so if we concur, you have to prepare a resolution, bring it back, and then we adopt it, or can we do this on a motion?
The Assistant City Attorney indicates you can make a motion.
All right. So it would be January 25th and February 22nd. Would that be right?
That's correct.
Okay. So who would like to make the motion to change our meeting date from January 18th, 2016 to January 25th, 2016, and our February 15th, 2016 to February 22nd, 2016?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Do you have a second, please?
I second.
Thank you. You guys act like you want to get out of here. I mean, we've only been at this 2 hours. And somebody said they had missed supper. Who was that?
Raj.
All of us, right?
Yep.
All right. So any further discussion of that?
I've got one thing I'd like to add, as I just recently went through a pure hell in my kitchen with a kitchen remodel, and it's beautiful. We had a contractor come in and do it. He applied for the permits, and we failed our final inspection because he was unaware of having to go through and follow the guidelines that the city had laid down. So while the inspector was there, I asked him a couple of other questions about permits in my house. I've had reputable contractors redo the electric in my garage and added carriage lights on the front of it, and I had to put in a new hot water heater. And I said, so how come these reputable contractors did not suggest that I get a permit? And his suggestion is probably
$60, right?
his suggestion was, well, the hot water heater's only $11. So his suggestion is that I should probably bring it up in the meeting and then suggest to the city that maybe they could put it in their email blast that if you're having contracted work in your house done, please ask for a permit. It's because one of the conditions that the contractor failed to do in my house was carbon monoxide alarms and smoke detectors. The smoke detectors in my house were over 20 years old. I did have a Costco CO detector, but now I have higher and lower CO detectors, and I have my smoke detectors in the bedrooms and not outside of the bedrooms. So I'm much more code legal, but I would just think that it would be helpful for the city to do that and say it's for your safety that we're doing this. You're not saving that much money.
That's right, and our inspectors are sincerely concerned about those specific issues, carbon monoxide and smoke, that's for sure. And it's worth $11, that's for sure. We're losing money on that too, I think.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just pipe in here for just a moment. We have amended the building standards in Municipal Code Chapter 15.04, which is are the administrative provisions. We have provisions to legalize what is deemed unpermitted construction, and I would strongly encourage you to come in after the fact and get the permit and get it signed off, and then you're good to go. And if you ever want to sell your house, you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. It'll be nice and clean.
Well, that's a positive change, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Very good. So we'd have a motion and a second on amending the meeting dates. So shall we vote on that, please?
Motion passes 6-0.
Very good, thank you. Public business from the floor. There are no public, or is. What would it be? Is it are or is? Doesn't matter. Well, my mother would have whipped me upside the head if I had not said it properly, so hopefully she's tucked up in bed and not watching this tonight. So we have no public business from the floor, so we stand adjourned until October 12th, 2015 at 5:30 p.m. in the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Conference Room here at City Hall. Thank you all for your effort and attention tonight and hard work. Appreciate it.